Really felt good about the progress that we've made. The things we wanted to focus on this season, trying to improve our drop-back defense, trying to improve our transition defense, trying to improve rebounding and our free throw shooting. Those have been the four things that we've emphasized. And I think we're making progress in all those areas. I think the kids were excited about playing last night, recognizing the history tradition of Dayton Flyer basketball. And you know, the numbers obviously speak for themselves. They haven't lost in about 385 days and at home. And they got a phenomenal fan base, and you know, we were really outnumbered. But the guys were focused and again, excited about playing. And we had 3 or 4 really outstanding performances. But unusually, we actually had a couple guys that did not play well, and we were still able to win. It's hard not to separate Anthony McLemore from the bunch, because you know, his double-double was really significant. He stood out. His ability to protect the rim. You know, he's, according to Ken Palm, he's the 1 in every 5 possessions he's on the floor, he's blocking a shot. I've never heard of anything quite like that. Now maybe that's because we're not doing as good a job defensively, where he's putting him in a position where he's having to block that shot. But at 6'7", he's just a really unusual player. He also attempted 2 threes last night, and he's going to start making those shots. He's made them in practice. He made them with great consistency this summer, and that's just because he's a gym rat. He lives in a gym. He's disciplined by virtue of his ability in the classroom and his family's military background. I mean, he's a disciplined kid, and he's worked hard at it. So it's great to see him bounce back and start to show what he can do. Chumo Kiki just continues to play well. Yes, he made some shots and had a couple of, you know, real good looks last night. But it's all the little things that he does. He's almost always in the right place at the right time. Rebounds his, defends his position, active in the zone. And late in the game, he was my inbounder when Dayton was pressing us, and he made the right passes at the right time and handled that moment extremely well. Mustafa, I thought played like a pro, particularly in the second half, where he wasn't forcing his actions, and kind of got into another good offensive rhythm. Continued to play hard defensively, and for the second game in a row, started to demonstrate his athleticism and use his athleticism to be able to get to the rim and attack off the bounce, and just played him stronger. So, you know, I thought, you know, from that standpoint, it was very, very good. Now we play another Atlantic 10 team on Sunday, and this is a dangerous team. George Mason has got a great history and tradition. You know, Coach Larinaga coached them to the Final Four years ago as a double-digit seed. They're in a really good league. They won 18 games last year. They've beaten Penn State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State in the last couple of years. They're undersized, and they'll be, from that standpoint, they'll be a tough matchup for us, for anybody. They shoot the 3-ball well, and they've played a good schedule already. They led Louisville for the first 13 minutes of that game. Actually, I'm watching it now, just trying to get back and get focused on them. So I don't know a ton about them, but they'll be a good opportunity for us to get an Atlantic 10 team. You know, I'll just step back one more time in the sense that the Dayton win was our 4th straight true road game in the non-conference. Last year we beat UAB, UConn, and TCU, and so this is the 4th. And then to add Dayton to that list, I think that's significant for our program. I think last thing I'll say before I have questions is I can't emphasize the importance of getting our fan base to travel with us on the road. We've got 2 We got 2 road games coming up in December. One in Birmingham against Middle Tennessee State, and we're going to Birmingham to try to, take the show on the road and travel the state of Alabama and let our Auburn family in central and northern Alabama have access to being able to see us play in person, and to play, to have an opponent like Middle Tennessee, back-to-back NCAA tournaments and back-to-back NCAA tournament wins against Minnesota and Michigan State. They've got like 10 or 11 upperclassmen returning. And I would tell you that, I'm always, me, I'm always a glass half full guy, right? And I'm always talking about being sold out and season tickets, and the attendance has been great. But I'm going to be a glass half empty guy here for a second, in the sense that they tell me that there's lots of tickets available at the BJCC. And so I'm challenging our Auburn fan base in the state to come out on that Saturday. And I would greatly appreciate it. And then part of the reason why we took the Murray State game, very similar to Dayton. If you look at Murray State's home record, one of the top mid-majoring schools in the country, you look around the country, there aren't many Power 5 conferences playing road games at mid-major schools. But these road games mean more to the committee. We had a harder time attracting household names to play us this year, partly because we were expected to be competitive this year. And whatever other factors, we just couldn't attract as many high-profile non-conference games. So you go to Dayton, so you go to Murray State, so you play Middle Tennessee and Birmingham. But we need our fans in those areas to travel, so I'm taking advantage of my time here at the press conference to push that a little bit.
Bruce, you said after the game to Rod and Sonny that you were hesitant to say you've turned a corner defensively, but if you got to start somewhere, that's a nice place to start last night, correct?
We continue. We've had let's see how many games we played. We've played 6 games.
Yeah. We've
played 10 pretty good halves defensively, and we struggled in the second half against Hofstra, in the second half against, actually first half Hofstra, second half Temple. So, yeah, I think we're making progress, but until that continues against other teams with different kinds of talent and things like that, I'm not willing to say we've turned a corner yet.
Is that a game though, from an experience factor, where you look at the guys and go, look, you won a game where you didn't score 95 points, and that's what happens when you do those things. Is that a good game to point to?
Yeah, it was interesting because I got some questions from the media up in Dayton about the fact that we only scored 73, and they were expecting us to come in as the 9th ranked scoring team in the country. We were averaging 90-something going in. And I was thrilled to score 73 points at Dayton. I didn't even really factor on the fact that we only took 50-something shots. On a lead in the second half, I thought we were smart to be patient. We've lost some pretty good leads on the road last year where we weren't patient, and I think that sometimes what it does is it creates a little panic in your opponent if there are times you come down and you just sit there on the ball for 20 seconds and you don't run something till later in the clock, because they want to get that ball back. They want to get it down the other end. And I thought we did a nice job of taking care of the lead. And so as a result, part of it was our own doing.
Bruce, are you more connected when you talked about it last night, but more connected right now when you go zone? And is it with your length and athleticism? Do you guys just feel like you can be effective in that?
I think the length and the athleticism has helped us in the zone. I think our communication has improved defensively, and you have to be able to communicate in zone, especially when you're on the road. And so our second half defense continues to not be as good as our first half defense when the defense is in front of our bench, and we can help them communicate. But I actually think that playing some zone is helping our man-to-man, because if you're forced to be able to communicate in the zone. And I could tell you that as a play caller, as an offensive coordinator of such, when teams change defenses, it bothers me, sometimes. I like to know what they're in. I know we have stuff we come out of timeouts knowing that I'm playing against a team that changes defenses, and I'll run something that works against man and zone. But it does limit my playbook because I've got to do that because I'm playing against a team that changes defenses. I thought our changing defenses last night definitely kept us kept Dayton somewhat off balance. And I thought we had a really good preparation. I thought Stephen Pearl, assisted by Matt Gatens, I thought our staff did a good job, really good job, preparing us. Now we saw Dayton 3 times in Charleston, and I will tell you that we also did some things, particularly defensively, that we didn't show in Charleston, and I thought that was disruptive early, and that was part of our plan.
Bruce, can you talk about what you guys have done to get better free throw shooting?
I've always said the way you improve your free throw shooting is get the right guys at the foul line, you know. So if Jared Harper and Mustafa Heron are getting fouled late in the games on leads, you know, we're going to shoot a good percentage from the free throw line. I'd say we probably have spent more time on it in practice this year. My graduate assistant, Matt Gatens, I kind of made him the czar a little bit of our free throw shooting. He was a terrific player at Iowa. You guys, somebody should, I don't even know that there's much of a story's been written about Matt. Maybe there has, but he's a good story. You know, his dad and I have been really good friends for many years. And I was the first non-Gatens to hold him when he was born. And I hoped that I could have coached him someday, but instead he gets the opportunity to work for me now. And so he was a disciplined, hard-working, tough player. And so I've made him the voice of, he and Coach Adler are primarily the voice of our shooters. And he's done a good job. And then the final thing is, I love to go out and evaluate. I love to put my eyes on players and figure out if they're any good or not. And I've always recruited a little differently than most programs. I like to go out there and evaluate and tell the guys who I like, and then tell my assistants to go get them, as opposed to a lot of times the assistant coaches will go out there and evaluate and come bring the head coach to see if he likes them, and it's kind of backwards. I kind of bring my assistants to see who, you know, along those lines. I love going to watch high school coaches practice, and so this fall I was at a high school practice in Georgia, and I watched a coach do a 15-minute free throw drill, and I liked the drill, and it was called the 50 Club, and so you put 15 minutes on the clock, you put 2 guys at the foul line, and if they can make 10 in a row, they join the 10 Club, and then they begin to work on the ability to get to the 20 Club if they make 10 more in a row. If they miss, the other player will shoot. He has a chance to make 10 in a row. It's fun to watch those guys compete individually to see what club they're in and to see if they can win that contest. But even all the way around the gym, you got guys checking in with each other about what club you're in and where we are, so on and so forth. So those would be 3 things that we've done that at least to this point, I think has helped us free throw shooting.
Any update on Wiley and Deja?
No update.
Bruce,
That status is still the same.
Bruce, when you look at Chuma, and clearly at this level, this is probably the first time when freshmen come in and they're coming off the bench, maybe for the first time since they've been starting playing basketball. How has he adapted to that role? Is that just his maturity level?
Yeah, you know, the thing I mentioned about both Chuma and Davion earlier in the year, and I've used them as great examples for the rest of our players. I've also been able to utilize our football team in so many ways this year. You talk about a case study about a group of coaches and a group of young men and how they've grown and the way they trust one another and the way they support one another. You know, I asked our guys to look at some of the major players on our football team this year. You know, guys like Holland or some of the guys on the offensive line or some of the guys in the defensive backfield, and go, now, what kind of years did those guys have last year? And they didn't have big years because they were playing behind great players, or but they stayed right and they stayed ready. They worked in the off season, and now look at where they're at. I can't tell you how, although I have talked to some of the football staff about how those guys stayed ready. But Chuma and Davion, for example, are playing a lot as freshmen. But if they weren't playing, I don't think their attitudes would change one bit. I think they'd stay right and they'd stay ready. While sometimes when you have upperclassmen that maybe aren't playing as much or think they should be playing a different role simply because they're upperclassmen. And I've had that with seniors in the past. I have no seniors right now, but I've had upperclassmen or other guys on the team that just think they're, just because they've been there for a couple of years, they're entitled to be out there and their role's supposed to be what the, no, your role's supposed to be whatever you make it. And coaches are going to put the best players out there. And so I'm really proud of Davion and Chuma because they both could start. And they haven't, their attitudes, their work ethic, you know, you look at what Chuma's doing and you'll say, why isn't he starting? Or why aren't you playing him more than, he played 27 minutes, he probably only plays about 22, 23 minutes. Why isn't he playing more? It's a really good question. But not a word from Chuma, not a word from his family. Just knowing that there's a trust in the process. It's really good to see.